pals and gals out there in YouTube land. It's Pat from Marine Country Homestead, and I have another project today. Today I'm gonna repair a walnut cutting board. The glue actually became unlaminated here on this piece, and so there's a couple of ways I can, well, there's several different ways a guy can repair this. But what I've decided to do is just go ahead and set the table saw up and trim just a little bit off of here to clean up this edge, and trim just a little bit off of this edge to clean this up. And so I'll have a couple of clean edges for my glue to adhere to, and then what I have here is a dowel jig, and so I'll set that dowel jig up and cut this dowel into, let's say, 3 or 4 lengths. And what I'll do is I'll put a dowel through the ends of the cutting board here to hold that in place, and I'll clamp it and glue it. I'm going to need this bit to make the holes in here, so the holes will go right through both of these pieces, and I'll clamp this together and let that glue dry, and that'll be pretty strong. And I've got to looking at my bit here, and I'm going to see if I can put an edge on that to make that nice and sharp so it'll cut better. So I'll go ahead and get started and stop stammering. Well, I'm going to see if I can't sharpen this bit. I think I'll come in here about, maybe 2 inches from the end and put one dowel. So I'll set this up for 2 inches in. I'll line up this piece with this piece to square up with the ends. I'll scribe a line. I'll come 2 inches from the other end, scribe a line. And I think probably just one more dowel in the center would be sufficient for this. So I'll find out where center is. And this thing has several holes. I'm going for the 1/2 inch hole. So right in here it says a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then there's a reference line right in here. Or let's see, it's right in here. Hard to look at the camera and have the pointer at the same time, so I'm all thumbs. So we'll set this up on that scribed line. Well, I'm over at the drill press, and I have this 1/2 inch drill bit in here. I'm going to give that a test. I changed my mind on this doweling jig. I won't need this until I work on the cutting board portion, and I'll tell you why. This piece right here I can set up on the drill press easy enough, and it's got a good square flat bottom on it, so I can just go ahead and plumb a hole through here without having to put the doweling jig on there. But I will use the doweling jig for the other part of the cutting board. So we'll get set up on the drill press here and finish out that hole. Now some of you might be recommending that I you know, drill from the back side of this until I can just barely see the bit coming out of this side, and then come back and drill with the drill bit through this side in order to keep it from splintering. But walnut's a pretty hard wood, and I'm not really concerned about that in this particular sense. I'll drill this this last hole to kind of show you what I meant by just breaking through. And if you don't have a sharp bit, this way is the best way to do it. If you feel confident you're not going to chatter or splinter your wood, then you'd want to come in here and just make it to where the pilot part of that bit just breaks through there. You turn the wood over, it'll center itself, and then you could just barely make through, and then it makes a little washer or a coupon, little tiny coupon. I'm going to have to drill 3 separate holes in this right here so that dowel can go through and intercept the block here and the, well, for lack of better words, a handle, that outside strip there, that trim piece. The reason I don't use the drill press over there is because the taller the piece of wood is, or the taller your stock is, the more potential you have to have it off center, and you want the holes to be straight up and down through here so that dowel can penetrate perpendicular to this line here. You want everything to be perpendicular. You want that dowel to go straight in. Well, if when they sanded this down here, let's say you're off a 32nd of an inch, well, that's going to throw the top of that block off quite a bit, and that's going to make your hole off as well. So when you go to put this back on there, it's going to throw this off one way or another, and you're not going to get a good seam. You're not going to get a good tight invisible seam right here. So anyway, now that I've just ran my mouth, hopefully my theory is going to pan out when I'm done here. So what I got to do is I got to find where I scribed those lines, if that's possible. Here's one of them. Find the center. Got this doweling jig on the back side of the butcher block. Getting ready to drill my first 1/2-inch hole. Determine how long of dowels that I need to make all this come together. So the easiest thing to do is put your gauge in here. See right here, we can go right into the bottom of that hole, hold it with my finger, and take a measurement and see how long of a dowel we need. Looks like we need a 2 3/4 inch dowel. You cut them just a little bit shy so you make sure you got penetration. So 2 3/4. I'll check all the other ones to make sure that they're all the same, because I just guessed on the depth here. Well, 2 3/4. So I'll make them all 2 5/8, and that'll be plenty. I'll go ahead and cut 3 more of those and just go ahead and dowel the other side while it's still attached. I'll put glue in those and drive those dowels in there, and that'll keep that other side from busting, and it'll also match. So the white wood will accent the end of the block. Okay, we got 6 dowels cut. And I notice these have a little flat spot on there, and I was going to put that on there, but I don't need to. What a flat spot on a dowel will allow you to do is when you fill the hole full of glue, then the excess glue has a place to escape. What do I mean by escape? So you're going to put a lot of glue in the hole, you know, in the hole of the cutting board itself on the back side. But when this dowel gets driven into that hole, you're going to displace the glue that you put in there with wood. So the glue that is going to wrap around that dowel, and I'll actually sand these down just a little tiny bit to make them go in just a little bit easier. I just got a little sanding block and a little bit of 120 grit sandpaper. I'll just round the edges of the dowel off here so it'll actually start into the end of the wood. It won't bind up on me. So what I'll do is I'll heat this up a little bit with a torch. I think just a little bit of heat on this, and then I can absorb some of the oil with paper towels. And so when I go to sand this down, hopefully the paper towel or the sanding paper won't load up so bad with you know, with the grease. This is a very aggressive paper here. I was hoping that I could use this instead of a finer grit to remove more material in a quicker period of time without loading up so badly too early. We're going to see if it works. Hey, you can see what all that oil does. It just cakes on there, and I think if I had go get my wire brush, I could just brush that off there. The paper is still good. That worked all right. So it looks like that method worked remarkably well. The sandpaper, it did load up like I anticipated, but taking that stainless steel brush, and cleaning out the pores here on the sandpaper, that seemed to keep that cleaned out really well. Anyway, we'll get started on the other side. Finish out. There's still just a little bit of ridge in there. I didn't want to dig in there with the sander. I took one of these Orbital Sanders and just carefully sanded down those dowels there up about 1/4 of an inch. So now I'm going to take a piece of electrical conduit. This is 1 1/4, 1.5 1.25 electrical conduit. Just cut a little piece off on the miter saw, and gonna take some of that coarse sandpaper that I was using for the top of the cutting board, and I'm going to finish out sanding that inside of this with that. Well, that's a correction. That's too big to fit inside. The circumference of this is too big to fit into the groove in here, so I'm going to have to use a smaller diameter pipe. This is 1-inch PVC pipe. It's going to wrap it around the pipe like that, and I'm going to start sanding this in here. That fits in there really nice. So there you have it. There's the cutting board. Now it just needs to be oiled again. Now that Mama went through all of that work to clean it up and oil it, now with these dowels on the end of it, it's not going anywhere. So that concludes that. I'll hand it to her and see what she wants to do for putting some more. I believe she's been using coconut oil on these things, and so we'll take it in there and see if she's happy with it.
I'm very pleased. It looks beautiful, and if when you saw it, it looked very kind of white and cloudy, as if he'd taken all the oil off like I thought he had, which didn't seem right to me because I'm sure it had sunk clear down into the wood farther than that. It was because it was coconut oil that I used, and it had solidified in the coldness of the shop and gave it kind of a cloudy look. But once it started warming up, those oils started coming back out again. I did go ahead and add a little bit more, and just to be sure, and it turned out beautiful. And I want to thank Bumblebee Junction again for putting that video out about the butcher block and and the oiling and answering some of my questions. So I really appreciate that. And hopefully this is now Heidi Mighty Mow proof. All right, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.